All right. Good evening, and welcome to the Wallala Municipal Advisory Council meeting of June 5th, 2025. Call the meeting to order. And we will note, our secretary will note everyone is here. We have a quorum. Zach Hayward is on Zoom. All right.
Where's Melissa?
She's not with us today.
So she is not here.
She is not online or here present. Okay. Next item number 2. Agenda approval. We have one change we would like to recommend. We would like to move the sheriff's report after the approval of minutes. And then we will go into correspondence, which includes 2 presentations. That's my suggested change. Any other suggestions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as amended.
I'll move to approve as amended.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mayor, second by Councilmember Lewis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, our secretary did a great job in putting together the May 7th regular meeting minutes. I hope everybody had a chance to review them. Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Lewis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mayor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're moving on to our amended part of the agenda. So it's the sheriff's report.
Good evening, how are you guys this evening?
Well, thanks for coming.
Is there a trick to this? You were telling me it's new?
That should be fine, just,
It's working, you can hear me?
yeah.
How are you guys this evening?
Good.
So I'm gonna give you guys the May
Try to
report.
speak, closer
Right
to the
into it,
mic.
is that better?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the total area that we cover on the south coast for the month of May, we had 241 calls. So I'd let you guys go, like the total amount of calls that we dealt with, calls for service. There were 49 incidents that we reported in Gualala. 2 suspicious circumstances, 6 traffic stops, 2 special events that we attended, 27 separate security checks of different areas in the community over that time. 1 follow-up investigation, 1 report of elder abuse, 2 domestic disputes that we handled, 1 basic disturbance, 1 coroner's investigation, 1 reported civil issue, 1 reported brandishing of a firearm, 1 citizen request. Normally those are a civil issue where we come in and handle them, try and give them a way to work out a situation. 1 reported alarm and 2 911 hangups. So, things are looking a little bit better. I think a lot of it is the presence. I'm down here more often on all of my shifts, and we have guys down here when I'm not working as much as we can as well. Did you gentlemen have any questions?
No, but can you introduce your partner?
This is Lieutenant Brandon Lee.
Good evening. I was here to introduce myself so everybody can see my face and know who I am. I've been with the sheriff's office for a while. I came to one of your meetings before. I was a sergeant then with Michael Jensen when he was the resident deputy down here. So I'm recently promoted to lieutenant and designated the coastal commander for the coastal sector of the sheriff's office, which I'm sure you guys are familiar that it pretty much covers all the way up to clear up to almost to Leggett along the coastline. And I just mainly wanted to let everybody know that, we're paying attention down here. We're putting a lot of effort into it. We've had some complaints of speeders and such on, oh gosh, this embarrassed myself. I forgot the name of the road already. Coming down from the ridge, there's been a lot of complaints about speeders in there. So, the deputies have really been paying attention to Pacific Woods. I'm sorry.
Pacific Woods.
Thanks. Paying a lot of attention to that area, trying to slow people down. It's hard to do that. I know it's like riding a roller coaster coming down that hill. So we've been trying to put as much effort into keeping things slowed down. We know that this year's, going to be a busy one. We got a lot of people in town already. I think there's a salmon season opener coming up either this weekend or the next weekend. So
This weekend.
yeah, there's gonna be a lot of people in the area. They're, yeah, open and close. They're really excited. So Fort Bragg's really packed with a lot of boats and people ready for that. So, but we're trying to keep our attention spread across the entire coastal area just to be fair to everyone. Deputies responded down here today actually for an alarm call at the bank, and fortunately it turned out to be nothing but a bumped panic alarm underneath the desk. So we're glad for that. But the response was good, and we're paying attention. So I'll leave my business cards here for you gentlemen, so that you all have contact with me. Obviously there's a little bit of distance between us sometimes, and my office is in Fort Bragg. So email is typically the best way to reach me because I'm on that, it seems, only when I'm not sleeping. Anyways, if anybody has any questions for me or anything of that nature, I'm open to.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Lee. I appreciate the speed monitoring a lot. Pacific Woods is a great roller coaster ride, but it's also pretty tight. Another place that we're experiencing significant speeding is up on Old Stage Road.
Yeah.
There's a designated 25-mile-an-hour zone in between 50 and 55s.
I am familiar.
Associated with the park. I'm frequently walking there. That's another way of taking one's life in one's hands. I think compliance is very low. And I'm detecting speeds well in advance of 40, sometimes over 50 miles.
I would agree.
So I'm just suggesting, I know you pull tight all over the place, you got places to be and people to watch and radars to scan. But if you can put somebody up there, I promise you it will be a very effective revenue generator.
Absolutely.
And maybe it'll make a difference.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, in response to that, I encourage a lot of the new deputies when they're in training and we're kind of familiarizing them with their sector here. I tell them when they come down here, I said, go eat lunch up at the park, and just park out there along the road in front of the building that the county has there. And it's amazing how quickly everybody slows down and starts behaving themselves. And I mean, you can sit there for 20 minutes and eat your lunch and, do a pound of prevention right there, just being present. So, yeah, I appreciate that. And it's been recognized. We will try to put some more emphasis on that. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is we get down here, the deputies get down here and they tend to just focus on Main Street because it's just so busy.
It's totally.
And they do. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of pedestrians walking around in the streets and going back and forth from the barbecue. And, it kind of looks in the summertime, it looks like we're driving into a festival when we get here. So
That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
and I was just having that conversation earlier about, how it's amazing how people come off the bridge and don't even pay attention to the speed signs and they think they're just rolling through town at 55 miles an hour. It's astounding. So, but we'll definitely try to put some more emphasis on that. I'll put it out to patrol and let them know that
Thanks.
when they're in the area to give a little time up on the ridge and try to keep things slow. We had that horrible accident a while back and, not that we can necessarily prevent something like that, but maybe a little more presence, especially for young people when they're thinking, yesterday when I was here, there was a deputy sitting up there, maybe I better slow down a little bit. So
I'm not going to put the burden on the young people. Certainly they have lessons to learn, but frankly, most people who are speeding are not young people. Sorry
Yeah.
to say.
yeah,
So it's a really busy corridor. It's an awkward situation from the speed management standpoint. We're about to kick off Little League, there are a lot of kids there.
at the field.
And after the park is reconstructed, we expect a lot more visitation. So anyway, it's something that just as long as you guys understand, it's a very difficult situation. It does not self-police, unfortunately.
Well, and I'll spread that information to the highway patrol as well, because they are not exempt from, taking a ride up through there And
Great.
I
It's
mean,
pretty
'cause
right.
they handle the collisions for us up there on the ridge, so they can take a little cruise through there when they're, I like to call it the loop, if I don't have a lot of time to spend down here, I'll come down through town, go up around the top, and then back to Point Arena across the ridge, it's a great drive. But yeah, you can really catch some people clipping on that road, so.
Thank you.
And what we'll do too is we'll keep in touch with Chris, and he could forward any information to you if we know of events that are going on, especially up at Bower Park or some of the other locations around here. That'll kind of give you a heads up that we're expecting a lot of traffic or a lot of pedestrians, especially.
Yeah, that'd be super helpful. I mean, I encourage the communities and the public in general just to communicate with us and tell us where things are becoming a problem. I have a couple of folks, ladies that I've met in my time here, down here in the Walla area, that email me on a regular basis, tell me about the speeders on Pacific Woods and things like that. So that's super helpful. We know where we can focus our attention, or if someone's really feeling unsafe, and then we can try to squash that for them. So yeah, I encourage any kind of, that's why I'm going to leave you my card, and hopefully, spread it around, spread my email around, and encourage people to reach out to us if they have complaints or, things that just don't work for them. We'll do what we can to try and alleviate that, or maybe explain it to them and help them understand better what's going on.
Excellent. Does Zach have any comments? Zach, do you have anything? Or are you good?
No, that's all great. I got nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay.
I did want to add real quickly on behalf of Sheriff Kendall. He asked me to apologize for not being here tonight. He had a family engagement with a graduation, so
Good for him.
he wasn't able to be here or Zoom in tonight. So
I'll give him our best, and we thank you guys for all that you're doing.
Yeah.
absolutely,
All right.
it's our pleasure.
Be
Thank
safe.
you. Lee.
John.
I have a
Oh,
question.
yeah, hang on, John?
Excuse me, John Bauer. I think you mentioned something about speeding and getting into town from the south side. After they go across the bridge, people are going pretty fast. You want to fix that? It's real easy. Build a roundabout
Right.
at 501, 502. They'll go around there about 20 miles an hour, and they're not going to do 60. And it will provide a lot of traffic calming.
What's 501?
That's the street that
Old
the
State Highway.
Old Stage,
Oh.
Old State Highway.
Yeah.
2. I live at the airport, and there are a lot of fairly fast cars that go by, and I think you guys know that. But more concerning to me is the group of ATVs, side-by-sides, and motorcyclists. Now there are some very young kids, granted they're wearing a helmet, but they're sure not 16, and I see no mirror, no license plate on their motorcycle, going down Old Stage Road in the asphalt, not on the side. They used to kind of go down and zip across and go on down the side, but they're not doing it now. And I think if these young guys start seeing that happen, it's going to be more and more of them doing it until it becomes an incident. And we don't want it. We don't need it. We don't want it. And I don't know how we get control of it. Most of the time, that's kind of the CHP doing most of that work. But so those were 2. 3 is Pacific Woods. You guys have seen the Scotch Broom. I almost hit a person in that turn right across from Amani's house up there, just above the steep section where it flattens out, and then there's a turn that veers to the east, southeast. And the Scotch Broom is over the white stripe this high. And that person that I almost hit was wearing dark clothes. It was at dusk, and they were walking up the road. they actually stepped back into the Scotch broom. Thank God. County's not doing their job. They need to be cleaning this up. They've spent 3 to 4 days in less than a mile of old stage, putting chip seals down, patching the cruddy asphalt that's up there that really needs to be replaced. This is not a good picture. And the county is, I don't know where they're going, but it's going to be a whole lot worse. The last thing, and I know you guys have seen these, the side-by-sides. They're like an ATV, they're bigger, they're wider, and so you can sit 2 people side by side in them. One went down Old Stage Road last week with its full light bar on in the back, which was all LED lights, pretty strong. And it was lit up pretty good with lights in the front. I couldn't tell you how fast it was going, but it wasn't 45, it was quite a bit over that. I've seen this particular incident a few times, and it's just a couple of them that are doing that. I don't know how we stop it. You know, the only thing we could do is if they had a license plate, you know, we could take pictures of them, but you got to be fast.
John, you know what you might do? Keep a time log on that, and we can pass it on to the sheriffs. And if you see that they're going there between 5 and 6, 5 and 6:30, maybe we could work with the sheriff's department, and someone could be taking an early dinner.
Well,
by Bower Park.
The ATVs and motorcycles that go down that road, they're looking for a place to go ride off-road.
Right.
And not too many owners are really standing out there saying, no, you can't go in here. So they just go. They think it's allowed. They think everybody can do it. And the problem with that is that it escalates. All of a sudden you have a little bit and then a few more. And then all of a sudden we're going, there's a herd of vehicles going down the road, both lanes, wheel stands. And you guys have seen the guy with the wheel stands going down the road. That's terrible. I don't know what they can do. You know, if we can find another way to get the county to deal with the real problems we have over here, and they've got money. We send them a lot of money every year. And I think they really need to be kind of standing up. I don't agree with the process, which they've been doing for tens of years, decades, of hauling people from Point Arena to run with the folks over in Boonville so they have a full crew, they can flag and they can do their work. That takes the Point Arena guys out of the loop. And when they do the vice versa, which is what they're doing now, with that chip seal truck, one flagger, kind of, you know, it's a little shaky, but they're pretty consolidated. So it's not like they have a mile of traffic. But up there on Old Stage, that happens to be at the park where they did this work. I'm sure there were some complaints, and they did this work. It's better, but it's nothing like what it really should be.
Okay.
And the edge of Old Stage needs to have a walking path on it.
Right. Well, and we've got that. We've made note of that to the county. And so between you, the sheriffs, working with Ted Williams, I think that we've got a pretty good communication loop there. And we'll just keep everybody informed on what's going on. And I took notes on your suggestions, and we'll go ahead and see what we can do on that. But we do have a busy calendar.
Yeah,
schedule, so.
I understand. I've had thoughts on this switching crews back and forth. It is an inordinate amount of time to get somebody over here, a break, a lunch break, an afternoon break, and get them back in 2 hours.
Right.
It just doesn't work. Why can't the county hire a private contractor, little guy, to go out there with 6 men and do some of this patching? Start at 8, they quit at 4:30, and they're not just a 4-hour-a-day crew because of travel times. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, we'll pass it on to the county and see if they can work with us. Thank you so much.
I'll leave my business cards up here on the.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the coast.
If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. It's been really good working with you guys. I'm at Bower Park at least once a shift. I'm through your airport at least once a shift. I'm sure you see me now.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Ocean Ridge back there have been dealing with some folks trying to steal some firewood off private property. So we are up there. We are about. Understand that we don't run radar, right? So I don't have the ability to write speed tickets so much like CHP does. I would actually have to be trained and certified in visual speed, which is really, really tough to do. I mean, I like you guys, I can go, ooh, they're going fast. But in order to be able to write a ticket and have it stand up in court's a different thing. So a lot of what I try and do is talk to folks and educate them about the safety and about the speed and those sort of things. But I think it's a great idea. If you guys see something about a certain time, right?
Mhm.
Let me know and I can try and change my schedule to be there.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Chris.
Thank you, Leonard.
Be safe, man.
If you not have it with you, I will,
Go ahead and see me before you leave and I'll get his contact.
thank you so much.
Okay, item number 5, correspondence. You've received all that. We have 2 presentations this evening. One is Madeline Nita Hope from the Cleaner California Coast. And she's going to do a presentation. You want to cue her up?
Hello.
Hello, Madeline.
Hi, good evening. I'm here with my colleague Gwendolyn Meyer from Cleaner California Coast. We're happy to be here and thank you so much for the invitation.
Hang on a second. We want to see if we can get a little more volume out of this.
Okie-doke.
Hey, Madeline, this is Dave Schbach. I'm the secretary. Could you please repeat your partner's name?
Gwendolyn Meyer.
Okay. Hi, Gwendolyn.
Hello. Hi, good evening.
Oh,
Thanks for sharing the presentation file.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, Dave, for responding. You got it.
Okay, great.
okay. We're ready.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are happy to be here to present on the Cleaner California Coast Leave No Trace initiative. And this is a 3-county initiative that is happening in Mendocino, Sonoma, and Marin County. And we can go to the second slide. So this regional collaboration launched in 2022, and it was in response to the spike in visitation to the coastal beaches. And that included county, state, and federal beaches that were having robust visitor visitation from folks. This was really during the pandemic that the supervisors of the 3 counties that we've listed started to talk about what they were going to do to kind of manage the visitor impacts and the amount of litter and waste that was building up at the beaches. So they decided to work collaboratively across the landscape, and create consistent messaging up and down the coast and really focus our attention on the visiting population and starting to put placements, ads, and communication outside of our 3 counties into the greater Bay Area, so up into the Sacramento area, the San Jose area, the East Bay, to really give visitors the opportunity to have information before they came out to the coastal zone around the behavior that we were wanting to see in the small towns and villages up and down the coast. So it is an awareness and education campaign. And this year that we're in right now, there's a lot of engagement, sort of boots on the ground work that we're doing with place-based partners and initiative partners. Working with Leave No Trace, they are our technical advisors, and they are really guiding us through the process of developing this coastal ethic. And we have been working with pretty robust team of stakeholders in our working group for since 2021, sort of to put this all together. And there's a strategic framework that I'm going to share in the chat. And it sort of tells you a little bit of what I'm talking about right now, but it gives you the framework that was developed by the 3 counties with the support of Leave No Trace, and really kind of what the focus was and what the sort of the imperatives were, and what our short and long-term goals are. So we can go to the next slide, please. So we have found that with our place-based partners, we've been able to do a lot of zero waste coordination and really just focus on the materials that we really have been hearing from the land managers is around food consumption in public spaces and all that comes with that. So it's a lot of the single-use materials that are being left at the beaches, and all of the rangers, whether they're county, state, or federal parks, they really don't, excuse me, they really don't have capacity to manage the amount of material that's building up. So what we've started to do is really do a little bit of intervention and helps create ways that the public can actually reduce the amount of materials that they're bringing out to the beaches, asking them to leave their packaging at home, pack a zero waste lunch when they have the resources to do that. And then we have a lot of other sort of integrated strategies of reducing waste when you go out to the beaches. I'm going to let Gwendolyn take the next piece with the coalition building and our principles and the signage.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me okay. So really, we're focused on a consistent message that we want to distribute up and down the coast in Marin, Sonoma, and Mendocino. And you will see in some Mendo parks, you'll see this signage. I don't know if you might have seen it already. Sid of Mendo Park put it in jug handle, and on the Mendocino Bluffs, maybe we don't have anything down your way, Gualala. So tying together this message with our partners is a key activity of ours. And the messaging is really clear. We have 4 principles that encourage people to recreate responsibly. And then Cleaner California Coast, beyond the messaging and education, is really a partnership building organization or initiative, and has partnerships across counties, state, with land managers and visitor-facing bureaus. Right, you can go to the next slide. This is just a brief overview of how we're looking at funding our next fiscal year. We've reached out and done these grants that you'll see on the screen, and by looking at them, you can also see what our focus is, often community enrichment, to help people understand how better to recreate and take care of their coast. And also we have quite a creative angle to some of the engagements we do with community. And we're continuing to explore this grant model as a way of funding our next year. Great, you can go to the next slide. Madeline.
Okay, and so why we're here today is in part because there's been a conversation that has started up in the Point Reyes community with a Gualala part-time resident. His name is Robert Kennedy, and he is a community member in Gualala who came to the information hub in Point Reyes Station, and he was talking about his interest in seeing about whether or not an information hub could be set up in Gualala. And it's my understanding that he has spoken with a couple of you And when I mentioned this to, when Ted Williams and Supervisor Williams and I had a conversation, it was really Supervisor Williams that put us in contact with the GMAC, and Robert, I think when he came into town in Gualala, he reached out to, I think, one of you in the space. Is it Kevin in the
Yes.
space? Yes. And so the conversation about the information hub, we are in partnership. We can go to the next slide. Our visitor, this information hub is actually in partnership with the Marin Convention and Visitor Bureau. And in Mendocino, we do have an active relationship with Visit Mendocino, with the Mendo Parks, Sid with Mendo Parks, and Ramon with Visit Mendocino. And we also, Gwendolyn is the Sonoma County liaison, and we also work in partnership with Sonoma County Tourism and the Sonoma County Regional Parks. And so one of the things that I've learned about your community, some of it speaking with Robert and some of it from having gone to your into your town, I've passed through your town many times, is that you are right on the boundary between Sonoma and Mendocino, and the Sea Ranch community which is in Sonoma County, does actually do their business in the town of Gualala. And so the other piece that I've kind of gleaned through conversations with Robert and is that there isn't an active visitor center in Gualala, but there's a trail that when you do have visitors coming into the community, visitors there's a need or a desire to have more wayfinding signage so that the public can sort of know where to go to access the beach, and that's something where we really do feel like with our information hub in Point Reyes Station, we're basically interfacing with the visiting public on a daily basis. So when we're open, which we're only open on the Friday through Monday, and we might be increasing that over the summer, but we're basically putting ourselves on Main Street because we want to interface with the public and give them sort of as much information as we have about resources and places that they can go and what's happening with the parks. And so it's a very strategic location, and it's my understanding that there may be that same opportunity in Gualala, which Cleaner California Coast would love to support. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So what happens at our kiosk, we've had several pop-ups at our kiosk, and we've done pop-ups with the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce, with the Marin County Executive Team, Administrator's Office, sort of the executive team, and folks from all the different departments have come out to the kiosk. And really, when we've had these visitors come to the space, they're asking us, like, what do we need to know about coming out to West Marin County? What do you want us to know before we go and see all these attractions and go to the beaches and kind of enjoy ourselves out there? What's the most important information that we should know before kind of going out to the beaches? So then we give them our presentation on the Cleaner California Coast, and we really are talking about a carrying capacity for the smaller towns and villages. Our place-based partners are the businesses, the nonprofits, the county outposts that are kind of in the coastal zone in Marin County. They really don't have the carrying capacity for 3 sort of topic areas. So one is the traffic, toilets, and trash. Those are sort of the big things that's come up, and the community basically has given the county of Marin, the supervisor, information about that, and they've also sort of spoken. We had town hall meetings with Mike McGuire, and we tried to sort of unify our voice around how do we coordinate so that we can manage these visitor impacts. And that was really before the Cleaner California Coast Initiative formally started, but it was the sort of what each of the counties, both Marin and Sonoma, were very much having the same experience, where there was this robust engagement, but then there was just very limited infrastructure. And Mendocino County, I think both Marin and Sonoma wanted to have Mendocino involved with this 3-county initiative because they believe it makes us stronger. And so we're trying to sort of understand how to show up in all of the visitor centers, and these kiosks that we're now doing. We have a Wi-Fi connection. We're providing access to maps. We're telling folks about water quality when there's, things that are going on in the water. We are providing access around emergency readiness. If there's, any one of our counties, if we have an earthquake, we're going to have some significant visitor sort of impacts with visitors that may not have roads that they can travel on to get out of the coastal zone. And then they're going to go to the shelters that we as small communities rely on. So we're trying to kind of bring a kiosk into Main Street in order to have some of these ways that the public can actually find information and make informed choices while they're out in the coastal zone. We are a bilingual initiative. We are working with 4 principles, which were on our posters, but they are embedded in the Leave No Trace the practices promoted by Leave No Trace. There's 7 principles that they promote, and 4 of the principles that we have are really kind of doubling down on that in the coastal zone, because we know that we're adjacent to the Pacific Ocean, and all of the tributaries and watersheds are basically draining into the Pacific Ocean. So we're trying to sort of disrupt that behavior that we know is currently happening with food waste and single-use disposable materials. We do see ourselves as a collaborative partner, supporting all of our different towns and villages and place-based partners. And the QR codes allow us to get a lot of different information to visitors. And we do have the Wi-Fi connection, which any one of us know that when you get out to any West County area, we lose Wi-Fi connections, and there's a lot of visitors who basically get turned around and can't figure out where they're where they're going or where they want to go, and they want to find a beach to be or a bathroom, and we just want to make that much easier for the visitors. So we do a lot of that talking with directly with the public when we're at the kiosks. So we'll go to the next slide. The other thing with the pop-up space is that we have used this space now for different events that are happening. So whether it's having like we have a big parade and big weekend this coming weekend, and we're doing sort of our volunteer breakfast there. We work with partners who are doing coastal cleanups. So we'll basically do our weighing and our recording sort of at the information hub, so people can kind of see what materials we're picking up off of the roadsides, off of the beaches. And we just are kind of showing them that we are recording this information so that we can share it with the databases that we want our information to be part of. So we are in the next fiscal year. I just want to acknowledge that Supervisor Williams did provide a letter of support for California Sea Grant, which is really about data collection and learning more about the visiting public. And so what we're finding is that by having a pop-up space or having ourselves physically present, it's really giving people more access to us to talk informally about the things that they struggle with. I mean, a lot of people get really frustrated with garbage. They don't know how to sort it. They don't understand the SB 1383, the state law, and they want to do the right thing, but they have a really hard time making the right choices. So we do work with your waste haulers. I know Redwood Waste Solutions has been the waste hauler that we used when we were up in near Fort Bragg with the ultra marathon with Mendo Parks at Big River Beach. We're going to be up there again this weekend with Navarro Day by the Sea. And when we're there, we're trying to just let folks know that there is a waste hauler who can actually provide direction, and we're trying to give people access to those signs. The other thing you'll see in the photo on the far right is there's a lot of visitors who want access to those types of resources that they're looking at, like the maps and the information about different projects that are happening in the community. And it's a great way to just share that, what's happening in Gualala. And, for example, what you were speaking about earlier with speeding or with some of the issues that are risk factors in your community, this is a great place to be able to kind of bring those conversations up in town, where you have a lot of community members are also walking by the kiosk, and they're also wanting to sort of volunteer at the kiosk, and it gives you sort of an opportunity to have your eyes on the town and really demonstrate and show people that you care about what's happening. So that's a real highlight of working with the kiosk. So we can go to the next one. So I've already kind of gone through some of this. I think Gualala, like Point Reyes Station and, Bodega Bay and other towns, Fort Bragg and Stinson Beach, and we're getting a lot of visitors coming out, and what we're trying to do is in the next fiscal year is really coordinate special events. So being present at, we just went and did the Fisherman's Festival in Bodega Bay, and kind of being more proactive with the tools that we have. So we do have these sorting stations, which are just beyond the folks that are talking. We have these sorting stations, and they are really to help the public visualize exactly where the material is supposed to go, so they actually don't even really have to think about it, and making it really obvious. And we are also working with a survey instrument, which is really the perceptions that people have around waste and garbage, and then also their familiarity with a reusable, container for water, or bringing your own cup, and how hard is it for people to do that. We want to understand kind of what the barriers are. And then we also want to just have strategic placement. So if there's an event that, like in Gualala, that you feel like you're anticipating a large population and a lot of people coming around, we want to be in that space with you, just to help sort of be a little bit of a rudder that helps kind of steer the public in a direction around the waste. And we're not afraid to kind of get into the waste management part of this. We're really interested in working with the public to just understand how to break this down a little bit more so that we can all start to, engage in a more consistent and meaningful way. Okay, so let's see what's on the next one. Next slide. Coalition meetings. So Gwendolyn, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. We regular coalition meetings, we separate them out. We've got Sonoma coalition meetings, and then we've got Marin and Mendo, and some people in the space where I think Ted was at one of our most recent ones. And yeah, we share information and update each other on what we're doing, where it connects in terms of the areas of interest. And tomorrow I'm actually going up to meet someone at Fort Ross to talk about the possibility of collaborating with a grant. So we're interested in those kinds of relationships. Yeah, so I think that's all I really have to say on that. I'm going to talk to Dion Deeker. I know she's south of you, but so we met her at the Fisherman's Festival in Bodega Bay. And so we're trying to build a relationship with her as well at that site, even though that is in Sonoma. But I think, yeah, I mean, we would love it if you attended or would like to attend the Mendocino Coalition meeting. And I think it's a great place to connect and share information.
And yes, and it's also a place that we can talk more sort of strategically about a project in Gualala. So if there is interest in an information hub, ideally we would have folks from your team. We'd have Robert come together. I'm happy to come and be in person as well, but it's a good place for us to sort of see what resources that we would need to sort of create an information station in Gualala. And then the other thing, this information hub used to be part of the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Improvement District, and then the pandemic hit. And so Cleaner California Coast kind of moved into that space with the blessing from the Business Improvement District and the Chamber of Commerce. But we got a little bit of seed funding from the County of Marin to basically just create the facade and do a little bit of the art that's happening in that space. But now that we have this very simple, it's basically a tough shed with a facade on it. I would say that it's totally paid for itself in terms of what the value that we've already gotten out of having it in place. So this is just we can go to the next slide. And we just wanted, make ourselves available to you for any potential questions you have about, whether or not the idea of a kiosk in Gualala, if that is something that you're interested in. We are looking right now at grants specifically for Mendocino, and we are going to be reaching out to the Marin or the Mendocino Community Foundation. And we hope that we will be able to have money that is built into several grants that we've just recently written that will fund a liaison and other sort of materials and expenses that can actually help support a kiosk. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. And just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you.
Well, thank you. We'll bring it back to the council first. Do you have any questions for Madeline or Gwendolyn?
So many.
So many?
I'll try to move through them quickly. First of all, thank you. This is Henry Mayer. Thank you for coming and talking to us about that and for all the work that you're doing. that is an extremely valuable initiative. I have a couple questions first about the kiosk. Is this something that, well, how much space does it need? I guess is the first question.
I mean, this is literally an 8 by 10 tough shed that has a facade on it. So it's a small space, and we have a little patio out front. So it's like there is an indoor-outdoor sort of element to the one in Point Reyes Station. And I think it's really important to have it be sort of an indoor-outdoor space. So
Mhm.
if you had all of the consumable materials inside, kind of on racks, you could definitely, outside have, we always bring out a table and, have some stuff outside too, but you really don't need much space.
Um, Great. And then how does it get staffed? Is it volunteer? Do you do some paid staffing? How does that piece?
So I do have older adults who are in the kiosk for Friday and Saturday, and then I have young adults who are there on Sunday and Monday. So we've so far are not paying anybody, or we're not, I actually do provide a stipend for the young adults just because I think it's the right thing to do and they need money. But those are grants, small sort of stipends that are written into grants. But we also, as staff members, go into that space, and because we have Wi-Fi, we can work there on our computers, and we can be open even if the public is kind of coming by. So we're kind of doing a little bit of a hybrid.
Gotcha. Thanks. And we'll say, with all these, I assume one of the challenges is sort of how does one get people to come and stop by? And I would say one thing that we very much lack in this community is a public restroom. That is the kind of thing that would certainly draw visitors if
Right.
such a thing existed. I would imagine that is out of scope, but it was a thought of what would be a useful combination would be an information center and bathroom. You'd get
Correct.
people to come by.
Right. And that's one thing we do have on our property is we have they are porta potties. They're not the, finished restrooms, but that is a big part of why visitors are even clustering in that area, is basically that there are also toilets there, but then they're also coming and getting information. And just as an example, on Memorial Day weekend, on the Monday we had 125. On the Sunday we had 95
Oh,
people.
wow.
And so people are really, drawn to coming in and getting the materials or taking pictures of the maps that we have that they can basically find their way to, the next spot that they're going to be going to.
Yeah, and I mean, I know people have no idea. Like, I multiple times a week am telling people, no, I'm sorry, you can't actually get to the beach from the Bluff Trail. You got to go across the people want to go. They see it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't know how to do it. So if nobody's around to tell them, then they kind of just wander.
Right.
So that's great. Just a couple other thoughts. One is, especially with the beaches, there aren't always trash cans that are close to where people are spending time on the beaches. I don't know if that's, obviously it seems you're more dedicated towards educating population, but it is always easier to get people to manage their trash well if we make it easy for them.
Yeah.
So that was just a thought on that. And then the
Yeah.
last, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, is that beach managed by the Mendo Parks or by state parks, or who manages the beach that is in Gualala?
So the big one, which isn't technically in Wallala, is Wallala Point Regional Park. That's in Sonoma, and it's a Sonoma Regional
Right.
Park.
Okay. Right.
But then there are a few other smaller beaches. There's Cook's Beach, which has no trash whatsoever on the property. which is about 5 minutes further north than town.
Okay.
Then there are the few Sea Ranch beaches,
Right.
which are, there's trash cans in the public parking, but that's a 10-minute walk from the beach usually.
Right.
I don't think
Right.
there's,
And so, yes, what we're promoting is the pack it in, pack it out,
Yeah.
and just getting people to take responsibility for their waste. And so, I think Gwendolyn is going to be bringing up some resources from that we have, but they're not branded, right? The ones that are branded are actually Mendocino. Visit Mendocino has the branded signage, but we could always drop off some signage for you. But it is good to have a little marquee or something that you can put the signage on that just is promoting that. But we can do pop-ups in those spaces. Like when it's really busy, just showing up and tabling right there at the trailhead and telling people, we really need you to, take your trash with you or leave your packaging here and take your picnic in the reusable containers. But we'd have to sort of create a plan, a strategy to address that.
Yeah, I mean, signage on the Bluff Trail seems like it would be useful at the visitor center at Wallow Point Regional Park, at Mill Bend, which is a relatively recent conservation zone. There are a couple places where that could be useful. I feel like even just some signage, I think, would be useful in a variety of places. Cook's Beach, too, would be really useful.
Okay.
And there are sort of places in mind where all those things could go.
Okay.
And then my last question is, where and when is the Mendocino Coalition meeting?
It just happened last week.
Okay.
And so it's going to happen again in July. So we will add folks in this meeting that we were emailing with to that meeting. And then we'll hopefully get Robert to come to that meeting as well. And Ramon and Sid, so that we can all sort of come together and start talking about this.
Great. Thank you for letting me take so much of your time, and everybody else as well.
Dan,
Yes,
do you have anything?
Yeah, hi, thanks for coming. If you put up one of these kiosks, what type of infrastructure do they need? You need to have electricity, water, that sort of thing?
Well, my conversations with Robert was that he was of course, I'm sorry, I'm not more prepared on this, but I understand that there may be a space that is available. Honestly, we have one electrical cord in this little space. We don't have access to any water. We have the porta potties around the corner that have a pump for washing your hands after using the porta potties, but we don't, we do have access to light. We do need it for the Wi-Fi connection if we want to give the public access to Wi-Fi. But you don't really need any utilities. And we're actually adjacent to an abandoned building, and we're getting power from that building with permission from the owner. But it's basically a space that is really dormant right now. And what we're doing is, just by our presence being there, is making it feel more activated and sort of alive.
Thank you.
Don, do you have any questions?
No, I really don't. I think it's a great idea. I think the devil's in the details, especially in terms of finding a space that we could use. In my mind, an ideal space might be the Guala Hotel, but that would have to come under a certain ownership for that to happen. Otherwise, yeah, great idea. Maybe the pop-ups would work on certain weekends where there is a lot of traffic. Otherwise, it's going to be a hurdle finding, I think, a place in town to set something like this up. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all your ideas with us, however.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I hope that Robert will be in dialogue with you about it as well, because he's the one that has developed my confidence in even coming and sharing this to your group. that I think he's very confident that he can support a location that that there may be some access that he has to property that he's willing to sort of marry with this particular project. So anyways, but thank you very much for your time, and it was really good to meet you all. Hopefully it'll be in person next time.
So Robert Youngling, do you have a question real quick? You good?
I don't, other than I'm really familiar with what Robert Kennedy is working with you on. And we've spoken a lot about the past visitor center situation we had in town. So it sounds like a great new path forward. The community needs it again. So I think it's great. And our local abandoned building would be the Walla Hotel. And it's a perfect candidate for something like this. There was a nice little area there, not a kiosk, but a spot there where a lot of visitors used to come and get information. So maybe that'll be part of the big picture here at some point in time. Who knows?
Great. Yep. Cleaner California Coast would love to be part of it. And we're happy to bring Sonoma County Regional Parks or Sonoma County Tourism to the table if that's needed to have this conversation with Sonoma County, with Mendo Parks and Visit Mendocino too, just so Gualala feels fully supported by your neighboring county and by your destination management organizations.
All right. Dave, you good? Zach, do you have anything?
Yeah, I actually do. Thank you guys. It was a great presentation. I really appreciate what you guys do. And I really mainly have comments to the council. You know, the kind of pop-up that you guys are talking about long term would be, I think, ideal for once we have our community center back. It's a really small, you know, it's a really small space. You guys can be anywhere, you know, adjacent to the front parking lot, you know, maybe even have, you know, a presence like on a wall in the front entryway or something like that. That's the kind of thing that our community center should be for. Um, to agree with Henry about the lack of public bathrooms, you know, that's another thing that would be awesome to be in the same place. But yeah, long term, thinking about that being a community center makes a lot of sense to me. Short term, though, there's, you know, the one other Mendocino organization that I can think of that would be helpful is RCLC, the Redwood Coast Land Conservancy, who are the new well, not so new stewards of the visitor center place that Henry was talking about, the Mill Bend place, but that's off of Main Street. There's no signage for it, and it's, you know, kind of you know, it'd be really nice to have some kind of a, you know, they're very present with local functions. They always have a table out, you know, at pay and take, you know, most times, and at other functions and stuff like that. So they would be a good entity that is active on the ground, you know, in the community to work with, to coordinate with, you know, the sort of pop-ups that you guys do that aren't, you know, not at a designated location, but like farmers market or,
Right.
you know, thrift market, whatever kind of stuff is going on. That'd be a great thing to do short term. But I think what you guys are doing is great. And
thank you.
yeah, it'd be awesome if we could have a future collaboration, permanent residence in the community center, if that's something that the community was into.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put my contact information into the Zoom link, but please do reach out to us, because if there is our upcoming events or anything, we would love to just show up and, you know, start to collaborate on these concepts.
All right.
And yeah, thank you.
Any
Thank you guys
from the public? None. Madeline, Gwendolyn, thank you so much for your presentation. I'll work with Don. Maybe we might be able to put your presentation up on the GMAC website. Oh, I get a nod. So yes, we will do that to keep our public informed. I have a couple ideas that I'll run by you. I've already spoken with Robert Kennedy as well, but I can talk
Okay.
to you guys offline.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Oh.
Enjoy your rest of your meeting.
Thank you
both.
so much for your presentation.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Well, have a good evening. Okay, next up, Laura Garza from the University of California Cooperative Extension Water and Climate Program. David, do you have a brief intro on that, or?
No, I don't. Chair Evans, I think Ms. Garza is ready to go. I think we've got our slides up and
All right.
she knows what she's up to. Ms. Garza, are you prepared to speak?
Yes.
Very
Okay,
good.
yeah, I was just waiting for the
You've
for
got the mic.
presentation.
You've
Thank
got-
you. So thank you again for having me. My name is Laura Garza. I'm the Water and Climate Change Advisor with the University of California Cooperative Extension, serving specifically Mendocino and Lake counties. And so for those who are not really familiar with UC Cooperative Extension or UCCE, probably you are, but if you're not, I normally like to describe it as being the bridge between the university and the community. So advisors like me will help bridge the resources and research from the university to the counties that we serve. And so we have many different advisors. Myself, I'm the water advisor, but there's like a fire advisor, forest advisor, viticulture advisor, and so on. And yeah, so this program focuses on supporting local communities, specifically in providing outreach, education, and overall research on topics related to droughts, floods, groundwater sustainability, water quality, water resources management, among others. Yeah, and so this is a newer program. This program has a little bit more than a year. And so an objective of mine was to reach out to all of the MACs in Mendocino to introduce the Water and Climate Change Program. And so with that, I wanted also to introduce or to talk a little bit about the project that I've been working on with the county, which is the Drought Resilience Plan. And if you go to the next one, please. Yeah, so for the drought resilience plan, this is sort of like a action item management plan for the county for specifically drought. And so just to start up with the agenda, if you go to the next one, I'm going to talk a little bit about droughts in Mendocino County. Then I'm going to introduce the Senate Bill 552. I'll talk a little bit about the drought task force, and then I'm gonna go really into detail, or sort of, into the drought resilience plan, because this plan is really long. So I'm just gonna give a really, broad overview, but I'm gonna focus a little bit more on the drought resilience plan for this presentation. Next one, please. And so, I mean, I bet that all of you are no strangers to droughts. And so here in Mendocino, I know that you've felt the strain of prolonged droughts. It could be from declining well levels to maybe you had to truck in water or haul water. And so I know that these challenges are not new, but sadly, they're becoming more frequent and more severe. And so actually, Mendocino County, despite being one of the counties with the most rain in the entire California state, Mendocino County was one of the first counties to be declared in a drought emergency in the drought of 2020 to 2022. And so this is why local planning and community collaboration is way more critical than ever. Next one, please. So this is where the Senate Bill 552 comes in handy. So this Senate Bill, or SB 552, was passed in September of 2021. And California basically mandates that the state and local governments work together and share the responsibility in preparing for and responding to water shortage events, specifically for state small water systems, which are systems that serve from 5 to 14 connections, and domestic wells. So those are the two main, I guess, target audiences that we're looking at with this Senate Bill 552. Now, this bill has two main requirements for the county. The first one is to make a group called the Drought Task Force so that they could oversee this plan, and oversee overall, drought events. And the second requirement was to develop a drought resilience plan. So if we look into the first requirement, which is in the next slide, so for the Mendocino County Drought Task Force as the first requirement, this task force was created in 2021, and they have met frequently since 2021. They currently meet during the County General Government Standing Committee. And so they meet regularly, probably like every 2 months, but then if we're in a drought, they will meet monthly, or maybe even every other week. And so the task force is it's a group with county departments, major water suppliers, the Ukiah Valley Basin GSA, some tribes, and some state agencies. Next one, please. And so for the second requirement, it was to develop this drought resilience plan. And so the main objective of the plan was to first evaluate water shortage risks within the county, and then proposing short-term and long-term actions for state small water systems and domestic wells. And so to develop this plan, a team was created from the Mendocino County Water Agency. They established the drought task force, but also they were the ones leading this plan. So they hired the consultant group EKI, and they basically developed all of the technical aspects of this plan. And then UCCE provided support in doing some outreach and providing some technical expertise. So now let's move into just looking at the drought resilience plan. Next one, please. So to develop the drought resilience plan, we basically follow this framework, and it has a lot of letters and it's kind of intense, but we follow this plan provided by the Department of Water Resources. And basically the main steps that we follow were data collection, then we moved to doing a vulnerability assessment, followed by looking at management actions, including looking at short-term and long-term strategies and actions. And then the final step was providing a plan development and an implementation roadmap. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of each of these steps. Next one, please. So for the first part was doing a data collection. And the consultant group estimated roughly about 8,000 domestic wells and 27 state small water systems. As you can see on the domestic well map, we basically categorize all of the maps based on how deep they were. So we can see in the coast that most of the wells are shallow wells, which are more at risk of being being dewatered during a drought. And then we have the state small water systems, which are 27 in the county. Next one. And so for the vulnerability assessment, now that we had an idea of how many wells we had and how many state small water systems we had, and like all of the different geographical places they were located at, we did a vulnerability assessment, which was basically looking at many different indicators, including physical indicators and then socioeconomic indicators. And so the overall conclusion, and again, this section is really, really in depth. If you go into the actual plan, you can go like really into detail. But the overall conclusion was that 84% of the domestic wells and 93% of the state small water systems are at high risk of being impacted by a drought, and therefore having water shortages. Next one, please. And so based on that assessment, the third step was to look at management actions. So this is basically what is the county going to do, right? But before stating just like overall actions, we decided to have sort of like a drought response system in which consists of first looking at triggers, which are specific conditions that will signal in which stage of a drought are we at. And depending on the different stages, we will define the specific actions that the county has to do. So if we go into the triggers, and then you can move actually to the next one as well. So if we look into the triggers, which are again some basic specific conditions of drought, we decided to look at two main things. The first one was looking at a county-wide indicator. And then the second part would be to look at a more regional part of the county, which is inland and coastal. We know that hydrology is really different from the coast to inland. So we really wanted to look at these two regions separately. Next one. So some of these drought response triggers were looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor. This is for the county-wide trigger. So the U.S. Drought Monitor is a tool that all of the United States uses when they are looking at droughts and floods. If you go into the TV and if you're looking at the news, some of these maps will pop up. This is really normal. And so we are looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor for the county-wide for Mendocino. And then for the regional response triggers, we're going to look at, the first one is looking at the dry well reports from the Department of Water Resources. For instance, in the coastal zone, we've seen that during the last drought of 2020 to 2021, we saw that there were 12 dry well reports. And so we use this as an indicator to like tell the county, okay, there's some dry wells being reported. It's time to pop up the lights. There's something going on. The drought is getting more severe and more severe. So we're using the dry well reports as a response trigger. And then we're also using hydrology or the water year in general. And so for the coast, we're using the accumulated rain for the Big Navarro Garcia watershed. And for inland indicator, we're going to use Lake Mendo storage. Next one. And so now if we know all of the different triggers, all of this will sort of like inform in which stage of a drought are we going to be at. Next one. So the stages of the droughts, we decided to have three. The first one is a water shortage monitoring. Basically, all of the time we're going to be in a water shortage monitoring. This reflects a non-drought condition where the county is not experiencing any significant water shortage or drought-related stress. But this is sort of like we're monitoring, right? So we're keeping in this stage until we get into the second stage, which is a water shortage warning. This would be reflected as a light to moderate drought conditions in which the county and some of the drought triggers will say, okay, we need to do something. And then the third drought stage is the severe and emergency water shortage stage, and this will reflect extreme drought conditions within the county. Next one, please. So now if we put the drought triggers, the ones that I show you, right? Like the U.S. Drought Monitor, the dry wells, and the hydrology, we put that and the stages together, we have this matrix over here. So this matrix includes this matrix outlines basically the drought stages criteria, focusing on these three escalating stages that I just mentioned. And these are based on regional conditions, coastal, inland, and then county-wide indicators. And so if we just look at the coastal region, we can see that for instance, for a water shortage monitoring, which is an early stage, for the dry well reports, if we see that there are fewer than 4 reports in a 3-month period, and the hydrology in the past 2 years is at least 80% of the average, then we're going to be at this stage. But then once the dry well reports start increasing, and now we're seeing well reports between 4 to 12 reports in a 3-month periods, and then an average precipitation between 50 to 80%, that means that we're going to be in a water shortage warning. So stage number 2. And then stage number 3 would be having more than 12 or more reports, and then having a total of a 2-year precipitation total of less than 50% of the average. That means that we're going to be in a severe and emergency water situations. So these thresholds will help determine when to start doing preparedness and emergency response actions based on the conditions of the coastal region in your case. Next one, please. And so now we see that we have the triggers. Those will inform the stages, and the stages will inform the actions. If we go to the next slide, please. This chart outlines some of the drought response actions that are tied to each of these 3 drought stages. And so these responses are built in intensity and in coordination as drought conditions worsen, right? So if we're in the first stage, we have specific actions, and then if we move to the second stage, we're going to have the actions of the previous stage plus some other ones. And so for the first stage, this is a water shortage monitoring. We're going to focus on proactive coordination and information sharing. Some of the actions includes tracking, monitoring, sharing information, having drought task force meetings, having mutual aid agreements, coordinations, doing community outreach, etc. Now, if we move into the second stage, this would be adding more protective and voluntary measures. So for instance, we're going to have the first actions plus maybe having voluntary water cutbacks and temporary ordinances. And then if we move into the last drought stage, this is where it will trigger emergency intervention. So here, the county is going to identify additional funding for responses efforts. They're going to look at emergency and interim drinking water supplies, and they're going to look for emergency declarations for faster access to resources and aids in general. So this is the overall drought response short-term actions for the drought. If we move into the next one, this last step is the plan implementation and some considerations. So there are 2 main considerations for the plan implementation. The first one is adaptive management. This basically tells us or tells the county that this plan is sort of like a live document, meaning that it will be adaptable based on changing conditions, or if we have new data, or if we need to amend something, then we will adapt it to this plan. And then for funding, we talked to this will be led by the grants units and the Mendocino County Water Agency. And they are the ones who will look for federal assistance programs and state grants and loans with different entities such as Department of Water Resources or the state water boards. Next one. And also for the plan implementation, we developed a roadmap where, depending on the different stage of the drought, different teams will look at them, right? So for stage number 1, the drought task force will lead that. But if, for example, if we look into the stage number 3, which is a more severe and extreme conditions, then the Board of Supervisors would be the ones leading that effort. Next one, please. So this is how it was developed, the drought resilience plan. We presented this to the Board of Supervisors and they adopted it in this past May 20th. And again, just a reminder, this is a living document. It should be periodically assessed and adapt based on additional data that we have. Next one. And then just to finish, if you guys want more information on the drought resilience plan, the county has a specific webpage dedicated to the drought resilience plan. In here, you can find the entire plan, but also you would be able to look at different fact sheets in English and Spanish. You can look at different presentations, different video recordings that we had, and yeah, and different resources for water conservation and drought in general. So yeah, this is all for me. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I'll be happy to answer.
All right, thank you, Laura. We'll go around the table. Henry, do you have anything?
You might not
Sure.
be surprised. I have a few. Thank you, Ms. Garza, for that presentation. So I do have a few questions. So one, just a note, I was a little surprised in the stage 3 actions not to see mandatory water conservation listed as one of the actions, since I know that's a step we've taken in the past. I sort of assume it is one of the actions, it's just not listed, but seems like a big one.
Yeah, I think it's probably, I mean, if we go like more into detail, it's probably there. Probably I should add that here as well, right? But yeah, we also looked at the previous response actions, and that was one of them. So it's definitely in the plan.
Yeah, great. And then I was wondering, so I know we were, or would have been if it were in place then, been in stage 3 in 21, 22. I'm wondering if when we would have been in stage 2, if you have any sense of that. I don't, I'm not sure I have a great grasp of like when we've been in that zone.
Yeah, so the the drought lasted from 2020 to 2022, right? And so probably the beginning of the drought, we would be in stage number 2. But since the county didn't have like this sort of like system, it was sort of like, okay, now everyone, there are so many dry wells, like we need to move fast instead of having a plan. So probably at the beginning of the drought, we would be in stage number 2, like
And
2020,
then oh, thank you. And then the last question is, so many Walla residents are served by North Walla Water Company, which is a private community water system. And I noticed state small water systems were called out, but were much bigger than that. And I'm wondering what the interaction between this drought group is or will be with larger community water systems.
Yeah, that's a great question. So overall, this plan, this bill just they wanted the county to focus on these 2 groups, but of course we know that and then we actually had this discussion, like we need to add at some point all of the different water suppliers to do this plan, or to at least know about this plan. So for now, I don't know if they will add it to the plan just in this time, but I bet it will eventually would happen, because I mean, we cannot just, oversee those water suppliers, right? So yeah, that's an important point. I can definitely bring that to the county as well and ask them, okay, let's, we should add that to the plan as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Garza. You mentioned using average precipitation measurements as a scale. What is your time average that you use, the time length that you use to calculate those averages?
Yeah, so for this specific coastal indicator, which is the accumulated precipitation, we looked at the water year of California. It starts in October and it starts on October 1st, and it lasts September 30th. The Department of Water Resources weekly estimates how much accumulated water we're having for different parts of the state. And so this specific time series would be monthly. So looking at the 12 months of the water year. And we have data since, more than 50, more than 100 years of data for the accumulated rain. So yeah, I guess it would be monthly, just to have it more precise. But again, the Department of Water Resources look at this even weekly or sometimes even daily, depending on the area of California. Like, for example, the Central Valley will have daily, accumulated rain. But in this case, I think it's weekly, and then we're going to see it monthly.
My question was referring to the averages you're comparing it to.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
at 100-year average
I see.
or
Yeah, sorry, the averages. Yeah, the averages, it will take, I don't remember, to be honest, I don't remember how many years, but it's probably like between 10 to 15 years. So if we're in 2025, from 2010 to 2025, it will take the average and then it will estimate that. That will be the average, and then we will refer it to like upper than 50%. It would be, an average year, and then lower than that, it will be a dry year. So yeah, it's from 15 to 20 years, but I can double check that and I can come back to you.
okay, because that's going to be a rapidly moving target.
Yeah, and I think that, it's so complicated at sometimes with averages, because if we look at, for instance, if we look at 50 years, probably it wasn't like droughts weren't as severe and as frequent as the last 15 years. So if we take a lot of average, then that number can be skewed to, to a lower level or an upper level. But if we take some of the past 10 years, 15 years, or maybe 20 years, then that will reflect a little bit more on the conditions that we had in the past. So for instance, this past 15 years, we had the drought of the 2020, which was one of the most severe ones that we've experienced. And then we had the 2014 to 2016, which was also really, really devastating for California. So at least we're taking those years in consideration.
Yeah, the point there was that I've seen data that shows that the last 10 years have been 9 of the driest years in recorded history. So that really shifts the time you need for an average. Thank
Definitely.
Don, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think all of us are painfully aware of the chaos going on at the federal government level, with numerous agencies and departments being decimated by Elon Musk, Doge, and the Trump administration in general. Can you let us know whether any of these drastic cuts can or will impact the federal government's ability to monitor the drought situation in states like California and provide for grant funding of programs that may be critical to addressing this type of drought situation that we face and that we will face in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. Out of for instance, out of the drought response triggers that I showed, the U.S. Drought Monitor it's a tool from NOAA, which is, the federal government provides funding for NOAA. So we've seen some data that has been removed from these tools. The drought monitor is still up and is still working. So that could be a really big hit for drought preparing and water in general, water management. But But then the other responses or the other response triggers that we have, which are the dry well reports and the regional water year charts, those are from the Department of Water Resources, which, to be honest, I don't know how much it will be affected by the federal government. I wish I had a number or a more defined answer for this, but I truly don't know. The good thing, and looking at the bright side, is that the for, and talking for the University of California, the University of California is mostly funded by the state, and that means by our taxes. And so most of the programs in California, based on the University of California, which we have a lot of information, we have a lot of equipment, we have a lot of experts as well. Those would be the least, the least affected by federal grant cuts.
Okay, thank you. Although I'm not sure you addressed the issue of grant funding.
Oh, the grant funding. Yeah, sorry. That was the first point. The second point of the grant fundings. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. On the federal level, probably there are going to be cuts. It's better to assume that there will be cuts just so that we could be prepared. But then there are some other fundings from the Department of Water Resources, which again, they might have some sort of money aside for drought emergencies, since the state is so prone to droughts. So hopefully we can just lean on the Department of Water Resources, and yeah, I think that's how much I can answer that question. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Robert, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple points. That was a very fantastic presentation you gave, Dr. Garza. I was wondering, well, I wanted to comment that I think it's great that the Mendocino County Water Agency is working on these things for many decades or years. It seems like they weren't very active, so I guess they hired you, and then so we're getting some action here on water issues. So I was also curious, like Don's question, will you be working, well, eventually, if you incorporate the smaller water districts like we have here in Walla, will you be working with some of the USGS data that's available online that tells you quite a bit about our water conditions here locally?
Yeah, I think we use the USGS, or the consultant group use the USGS as well. I don't remember specifically which specific data, but the USGS has so much data specifically for water. So that's always a web page that we go normally. Like the water data tool that they have is fantastic. So yeah, we're gonna use it for sure. Mhm.
It's quite voluminous what's on the USGS site for our local water company.
Yeah.
And then on USGS is part of NOAA, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
It's part of the NOAA.
Is NOAA oversees USGS, the United States Geological?
Um,
Or
I
no, I don't
don't know.
recall.
I wouldn't think so, but honestly, I don't know
Okay.
the hierarchy, but probably it's a separate.
I'll look into that, but may it be that USGS is also affected by things that are happening at the local level? Anybody?
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Okay, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
David,
Thank you.
you don't have anything? Zach, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything to add. That was a great presentation. It's very informative. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have anything. We'll open it up to the public. Anybody? No, everybody's shaking their head no. Laura, thank you so much for an excellent presentation. And it's okay if we upload your presentation to our GMAC website as well and inform the public?
By all means. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much
all
for
right.
having me.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
your
for coming.
time, your
Thank you, Dr.
presentation.
Have
Have
a
a
great
great
one.
evening.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay. I think that was the longest correspondence presentation that
Yeah, every meeting's an opportunity to stretch our horizons, right?
absolutely. I'm glad we had the sheriff go first.
I'm sure he's glad to.
Yeah, poor
Okay.
guy. I'd be dying.
Item number 6, public comments. John? Yes.
Anybody else?
No, Mike.
Go ahead.
Is this the part, public comment part where it's just like random?
Yeah, where it's a non-agenda item.
Yeah, I had something, I had 2 things, but I can't remember, so.
Oh, okay, well, John, why don't you step up and then if she thinks of, then please jump up. Say your name so that way everybody knows.
John Bauer.
Thank you.
Last GMAC meeting had some things that occurred that I was pretty concerned about. And I don't know if you guys want to go into some form of more private discussion about what's going on and what has happened, but you may wish to. First off, there was a member of GMAC that attempted to speak on a subject that the county council had made him recuse himself from as a public citizen. And I wish that GMAC could clarify that with county council if he's allowed to do that, because I think it's still kind of open in the air. And just because of the streetscape project, it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but it's something that occurred. And I felt as though this should have possibly had much more severe consequences after the DA has given these directions. That was one item.
Okay.
The second item was that we had a long presentation from a red-haired fellow from county staff, I believe, or coastal staff on the environmental report that's going before the Coastal Commission for the streetscape project. And one of the things that, I mean, there were many things that I needed to really comment on, and it wasn't the place or time. They need to sit down with the water company and with the owners of the properties there and really get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on. But one of the things that bothered me most was he stated at the meeting that CalTrans was going to buy all of the prescriptive easements. And I think I stated that was nothing I knew anything about as the owner of the prescriptive easements. And that's about half of the streetscape if CalTrans would like to get that property in their name with a deed. So we're looking at 50% or better of the property that the streetscape's being built on that he just promised that CalTrans is going to pay the owners for the prescriptive easement. And we have not talked about that with any of the CalTrans people. I'm really concerned that many things such as this one and others will consequently create a disaster for us. And you know, my opinion on the streetscape is that 92 places are being taken off the street as potential parking places and not replaced. And so there's no mitigation for those lost places for anyone in town. And of course, there will not be a place for long vehicles to park anywhere, even at the south end of town, with as busy as that little turnout gets. So there are things that don't look good and don't seem right. And I think we may have the cart before the horse here. You know what my view is, and you can go with that if you feel like you'd like to bring some of these things to the county's, their state's attention. Maybe we should let you guys put it on the next agenda and see where it goes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just have,
State your name so that we.
yeah, Corinne.
Corinne, do you mind telling me your last name?
Yeah, it's Cronin.
Thank you.
I've been, I think, maybe coming to the meetings for about 6 months as a community member, and I have noticed the lack of attendance of one of the council members, and I have some concerns about her long-term position. If she's not going to be attending, I think she should resign, so that it can open up a spot for other people who may be interested in the position. I forget, that was one thing. Oh, the other thing was just, I've been looking at one of the meetings, a couple meetings back, there was a conversation about, I think like a survey, and you weren't getting a lot of responses. And I've looked on your website, and I'm not seeing anywhere where there's like an email newsletter sign up where community members have like an easy access to say, hey, I'd like to get like a monthly update on, I want to be involved. And that's where I think maybe surveys and things could go out where we might be able to get a little bit more community involvement that doesn't necessarily require coming here, which I think can be a big commitment for a lot of people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody online, Don?
That wants to comment? Not that I see.
Okay. We'll go on, close the public comments. Go on to item 7, public agency referral for coastal development permit 2025-0009 CalTrans. So I don't see a name on that. You got.
Yeah. So.
Oh, hang on. Let me ask. Is this part of the streetscape discussion?
It is not.
Okay, good. Okay.
Okay, with your indulgence, Chair Evans, I put this on our agenda. This is not an action item. This is not a discussion item. This is a proposal by CalTrans to do extensive improvements to State Route 1 from the city of Point Arena all the way up to Philo Road up in Elk, Philo Greenwood Road. So this is a heads up item. I attached a link that would enable members to download the staff report or the referral. It's an extensive project. It's representative in many ways of what we're seeing happening right now. District 1 is putting a lot of investment into Highway 1, which is great. I think a lot of it's being funded by SB1 proceeds, which is great. Spend them while we got them, because we may not have them again. But in the meantime, you can see the description. It's kind of a laundry list of work to resolve defects and to do repairs, and ultimately to improve the durability and robustness of the highway infrastructure so it lasts longer. That's the primary intent of this particular investment. It's a kind of a resiliency, robustness, hardening exercise. Functionality will be improved to some extent. It'll be better, more readable signs, for example. But this is not anticipated to change the footprint of the highway. It's not going to result in more square footage of pavement. There will be some temporary impacts that the agency will have to resolve through regulatory requirements, doing business as they do. But anyway, this is a heads up item. It's going to affect us, but it's not in our commentary.
Okay. Any questions or from council? No, it is, okay.
Yeah. I was talking to Dave about it a little bit beforehand, but it reminds me a little bit of back in 2020 when CalTrans came through and from the area of Point Arena south to the county line here at the bridge, they redid and re-asphalted the entire stretch of Highway 1 with the exception of the streetscape part of town. So I think it's gonna affect us in a way, even though it's out of our jurisdiction, but it's a very worthy project for all of us that travel Highway 1 to Fort Bragg and whatever. So it's, I looked at it a little bit. It's a huge thing.
Okay, John?
John Bauer, I find it concerning this particular, I guess you want to call it a CDP, Coastal Development Permit, or whatever the CalTrans is proposing, is not covering mileposts 0.00 to milepost 15 point whatever at Point Arena. And yes, I understand what Dave said about the nice paving work that was done. It has nothing to do with the rest of the resilience of CalTrans work, including concrete around the guardrail posts and the other things that are being going to be applied to some of that. I know that guardrails with the wooden posts, sometimes they burn in a fire, but maybe the concrete will help that or whatever. But anyway, I don't think that it was thought out very well. It should have applied to all of us in District 1.
Bryn, do you have anything? Okay. Zach, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. That closes that item. On to item number 8. It's an old business discussion or action. Mendocino County Local Coastal Program and Wallala Town Plan update. Concerns, issues, objectives for the South Coast. The recommendation is to discuss and complete concerns, issues, and objectives to inform local reviews of draft LCP update documents and to communicate with other LCP update partners and stakeholders. So
this is a standing item, and I apologize to members. I believe the last meeting you directed me to move this content down under committee reports, item 10.4, and it looks like I failed to do that. So my apologies. I'll do that next time. This is intended to be a standing item. The local coastal program update is happening. At some point, the county will turn to the communities up and down the coast and provide explicit opportunities to either review technical documents or review and comment on draft policy documents. We are not there yet. However, we are aware that other stakeholders, such as the Grassroots Institute, are working with communities up and down the coast, as well as the engaged agencies, to share information, to get people ready to engage the update process so that we can contribute constructively and timely, because this is an update that's going to happen within a specific and rather constrained timeframe. The idea of this item, again, just to keep this topic in front of us. And if issues or questions or ideas come up between the meetings, this is an opportunity for our members to talk about them and for me to record them and, as appropriate, share them back up with Grassroots Institute and the county. So again, nothing immediate, no particular urgency, but again, just a heads up. Here's some standing items. Vehicle for this, and perhaps a trigger, was a draft slideshow prepared by Peter McNamee at Grassroots Institute, whereby Peter went down the coast and essentially did snapshot evaluations and issues for discrete geographic areas from Westport all the way down to Walla. His snapshot for the area either in Point Arena or Iverson Road to Walla represented, in his admitted review, his own ignorance of the area. He's not from here, he can't get down here. But essentially these represent a opportunity for us to kind of climb on board this accumulating body of information and feedback. So that, again, by the time the county either releases materials for us to look at, or the county asks us to comment on materials, we're ready to go. Because what I anticipate is that given the timeline, which is compressed by grant funding, we're not going to have huge amounts of time to look at these materials. And if one overlays that limited review and comment timeframe with our monthly meeting cycle, we might find ourselves at a disadvantage if we are, again, trying to come up with the ideas anew when those reviews are in front of us. So it's just a strategic conversation at this point.
Okay, hang on, Sean. Any comments from council? Questions?
Yeah, in the slide covering our area, it talks about chief growth constraints and it kind of lists off a bunch of public infrastructure, broadband, telecommunications, electricity, water, sewer, highway one congestion, etc. I worry a little bit that water is kind of just buried in that list, where, as I understand it, that's kind of the a number one growth constraint. I think the other ones are don't act with the same sort of mechanistic force of saying no, you can't grow. If we can resolve the water issue, then all the other stuff is sort of has some bend to it. But that one is, there's a moratorium, and that's just what it is. So I think it might be useful to call that out separately or highlight it in some other way, that's the real growth constraint. That's the one that really bites.
Okay. Any other comments?
What he just said actually is what was on my mind is law of the minimum in ecology says that which is least available is your limiting factor in terms of your carrying capacity of what you can do there. So if water is our limiting factor.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you guys said in terms of water being an absolutely critical issue for our area, as it is up and down the coast. Really, we're not that different, other than we do have a water company that does provide water for many of the users in the area. And my understanding, and John, maybe you know something about this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is the North Gualala Water Company attempting to get the moratorium lifted on new connections?
You said North workflows? Attempting to get
The water moratorium lifted.
Is North Walla Water trying to lift the moratorium, get the moratorium on new connections lifted?
what to be listed, did you?
To
say?
Lifted.
be removed.
Okay. The
Lifted.
moratorium
Lifted,
from the
correct.
No, I think that.
Yeah.
Answer.
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Thank you.
John Bauer again. I think that we have a few more steps to go through. One is with the water board and the hearing that has now been 19 or 20 years delayed on the diversions that we have in Elk Prairie that are considered water board jurisdiction. And the homework that we've done for decades on that to get it to a point where it's got some reasonableness to it, not just shut us off. And so we get through the water board, and then maybe at that point, we'll be thinking about offsite storage, and maybe the coastal commission will ease up and possibly drop, I'm hoping, drop the moratorium for meter connections. We have never had a problem since we had the verbal agreement with the water board and the Fish and Wildlife. Excuse me, we didn't have a problem then, but we have new people with Fish and Wildlife who have different ideas. They can't really change what we started with and what we were working with. So I don't think that all this is going to be easy. It's going to take time, but I know that the water board in Sacramento is going to have a hearing one of these days, and it's not too far off. Maybe this year, maybe next year, but they need to get it off their platter. It's been there too long. And I think that that might put the impetus to what's going to happen if we get it removed, what's going to be our diversions that'll be allowed reasonably from the underground aquifer, the very large aquifer in the North Fork Elk Prairie area, where we don't seem to have any possible interface with that flow under the current pumping conditions. If our pumps were to increase dramatically, might have some impact, but it's mitigated through on-off cycles, so it's kind of leveled out. The water board sent their own staff person out to measure the North Fork, the Little North Fork, and our pumping station, the water the water flow amounts in CFS, cubic feet a second. When they got through with that, they found a certain CFS downstream, a certain CFS in the Little North Fork, and a certain CFS up at our pump station while we're pumping. Lo and behold, their staff person, who is now retired, has a report, see in the file, that said there was a 1 CFS increase in flows while we're pumping at the downstream location. So the science has been done years ago. Our science with fisheries and those specific people who worked in the North Fork and in the South Fork, some of them are gone now. Some of them have died, but the science is still there, and there's a certain flow that should be allowed, not just shut off. So, like I say, if this goes to a water control board meeting on the water rights, then we probably want you guys to come and say, hey, look, we don't think North Wall is doing anything wrong. And that's what the staff person told me. He and a fish and wildlife, excuse me, Trout Unlimited person were riding together back home. They looked at each other, and this is hearsay. And they said, what is North Walla Water doing wrong? Nothing. You know, so the rule's the rule. Whether you're doing something right or wrong, I don't know. So, you know, it's a long path. And I love the comments that the lady had here about the potential for assisting small utilities to see if they can help them get through. Now, we know in the long run, years ahead, we're going to need some offsite storage and a treatment plant. It's going to be really hard to convince a coastal commission that we'd like to have it in the coastal zone. But that's where I like to see it, because it's the highest point in our system, which makes the best flows for fire protection and customer use. So I can't say much else. You know, Dave is the president. I'm just a lowly secretary here now. He's been working on this and we've been around and around and around. We're kind of getting tired of it. Not having more revenue because we can't put more meters in where we have stubs already installed and people have to go drill wells. It's crazy. I think something's got to be taken care of, and in that, I would expect that our town plan might have some alternative ideas in it that you guys get together and we see this local coastal plan and the Walla town plan change to where it really works. It's going to take us some time, and I don't think the consultants are going to be very happy with us when they see the problems that the town plan has. So anyway, if we combine that with the town plan and housing development, there are new strikes out for the governor looking for more housing. I think that hinders us somewhat, but it also hinders the Coastal Commission in what they've done. And I think they've done something bad. So I think they need to back out somehow, and I don't know how they can save face.
All right.
Anything else?
Thanks for your comments, John. I just want to make one statement here, and that is I ran into several members of California State Fish and Wildlife who were here. This was a couple weeks ago. I don't know whether you were aware of this, but they were surveying the North Fork.
They what?
They were surveying the North Fork.
Survey.
Yeah. I don't know whether that has anything to do with what the water board's doing now or what, but hopefully we'll be able to get some kind of report from them, at least know what they did or what they found out about the North Fork. They had their waders on, they were in the water.
On that light surveying the North Fork. The North Fork drainage has 1/3 of the Wallace total drainage acreage. The South Fork has 2/3 of the Walla River's drainage. In the summer, the North Fork flows more water than the South Fork does, with half of what the South Fork has for coverage. You know, if they're 2/3 and we're 1/3, something's wrong or something's right. It might be extremely right. There may be a lot of upflows. Like I said, when I talked about the one CFS, it's called Rising Reach, that their staff, that the water board staff found. The staff person that did that report said we really need to go over and look at their files. And I wonder what he was talking about. We found it. And that's kind of, I'm afraid it's a smoking gun. It's not good for those that want to take the water diversion abilities away from North Walla water and our ratepayers and our people in the community.
Okay, thank you. Zach, do you have anything? Did we lose him? We did.
No, I'm here. No, I don't have anything to add. No.
Robert, David?
No, I appreciate everyone's discussion, and if it's okay, I'll make sure I just present it this way, and we'll just bring it up as part of 10.4 in subsequent.
Committee report, okay. Bryn, do you have anything? Okay. That takes care of old business and 10.4. Good job.
Oh, a couple items on 10.4, since you brought it up, I didn't bring it. Just a couple items. Let me get my notes. Okay. The last local coastal program update was hosted by GRI on the 15th of May. That included a presentation by Melissa Kramer, who's the North Coast District Manager of the Coastal Commission. And it was followed up, that meeting was followed up by Ms. Kramer sharing information about the governor's state of emergency declaration that authorizes the secretaries of the Natural Resources Agency and Cal EPA to suspend some state law requirements, including Coastal Act and CEQA requirements to expedite some critical wildfire fuel reduction projects. There's a website at the state that explains in more detail the level of this exemption. Suffice it to say, it's not for your general backyard projects. It's larger scale projects. The application period is 2025, so it's a fairly short turnaround to essentially test the pilot approach. But again, if you're curious, I encourage you to go to the wildfiretaskforce.org. There's a website hosted by the CAL FIRE, and that has information about the governor's executive order. Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on. Committee reports. Henry or Dan, do you have anything, any update on Bar Park?
We skipped new business.
There isn't any.
There is none.
Okay.
As I understand it, the RFP, the bids were due by 2 p.m. today.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know any details on that, but hopefully they got a number of bids, and hopefully that project can move forward with them. But I don't know what the timing is for when they'll accept them.
They'll probably review them and check references and then go with the lowest responsible bid. And
yeah,
no, we asked them to notify us so we can let our stakeholders know. And we know that they're planning on breaking ground in July. So yeah, so it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're right. They got some good bids. I don't have anything on Bower Park. Anything from questions from the rest of the council? No. Anything from the audience? No. Okay. Dave and Henry, do you have anything? If so, then Robert needs to recuse himself. If not, we can move on for the streetscape project. Do you have anything?
I don't think Robert has to leave. It's just a heads up. I distributed to members of GMAC the county staff report for the upcoming coastal permit administrator hearing on June 26th. If you're curious about what that show is going to have, please do take a look at the report. My comments to Planner Crowley did a fine job. Very complete, pretty readable. It's all in there. So that's it.
June 26th?
June 26th in Ukiah.
We may want to put that date on our GMAC calendar so we can let people know that that's going to be coming up.
Yeah, and I could put a notice on Facebook too.
Okay.
With a link to the
Do
document.
that with a coastal development permit hearing with a permit administrator?
Correct. It's a standard coastal development permit for the streetscape project.
Basically the negative.
So June
declaration.
26th.
It's the NECDEC will be here and the CDP.
Planning and building somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. 10.3, Walala Community Center reconstruction.
Nothing going on, right?
No, it's very quiet. And, okay, real quick. The biggest hurdle right now is we're having an election of new officers. So there's a ballot that was mailed out to everybody who is a community center general member. Ballots went out. They are due. They're supposed to be postmarked June 18th. And the general membership meeting is on June 21st. And there are 4 seats open, 3 that are replacing board members that are termed out, and 1 replacing a board member that resigned. So that's our biggest hurdle right now. If you're not doing anything on June 10th, which I'm sure you guys are all busy, but on June 10th at the board meeting of the community center, there will be an updated presentation on the figure design. And I understand it's considerably downsized from the original 7,000 square foot building to a 5,000 square foot building. And I understand from the architect in a conversation today that they're whittling it down to about 800 a square foot. So that'll make the building at $4 million as opposed to the 9.5 that we entered the year in January with the price tag on that. So if you want to see what's being planned for the new community center, one of the options, let me back up. There are 4 options on the table right now. I'm sure all of you have seen it. There's a figure contract, which we're currently under contract with the architects to design the building. There's a committee that is proposing an alternative plan. There is a movement right now to purchase a hotel and turn that into a tri-partnership with a private investor, Coastal Seniors, and the Walla Community Center. And then there's a 4th proposal that is presenting the concept of a steel building or metal building.
Quonset hut, hopefully,
Quonset hut.
historic.
So anyway, but the most important thing right now is just getting the information out about what the proposals are on the table. And if you are a general membership member, be sure to vote. And then we will turn everything over in July 1 to a new board of directors. So, any questions? Great. Oh, Corinne?
Questions?
Absolutely.
Corinne Cronin. Where can I see a budget for what's been spent on the community center so far? And like how much has been allocated to each expense so far? That's one question.
Okay, give me your contact information and I can send you the treasurer's report on that so you can see exactly where the expenditures went.
And I'm assuming the community center board are the ones who approve the cost of certain things that have happened so far? Is that who decides how much we're spending on an architect, et cetera?
Correct.
Okay. And what are the parameters for a sitting board member? Are there requirements to be residents of Walla and Mendocino County, or does that include members of Sea Ranch?
It includes anybody within the sphere of influence for the Walla Community Center. So technically, that goes all the way from Elk all the way down to Timber Cove.
Okay.
So it does incorporate both Sonoma and Mendocino counties.
But you have to be a dues paying member.
But yeah, you have to sign up and be a dues paying member, and you have to be a member for 3 months.
I did to sit, but it does look like also you have to be a dues paying member to vote as well, which seems like a conflict of interest for requiring community members to have to pay to be able to vote on a service that is for the community.
The reason for that, and I don't want to get too far into it, because the governing body is the Walla Community Center, and they're the ones that are responsible for the allocation of all funds. It's not the community funded. The project is funded through the Walla Community Center, and the Walla Community Center Board of Directors has the responsibility and the authority for contract management and all expenditures within that nonprofit. So that's why it's not open up to the general public to vote. It's anybody who has signed up, any general member. They are basically the members that are directing the board on what they would like to see. So it's not a community vote. It's not a community project. It's just a Walla Community Center, the nonprofit group. It's their project.
Okay.
It's a private nonprofit corporation.
Okay. Presenting as a service to the community, but requiring financial contribution in order to participate.
Right.
Okay. And then I had one more question, but as I was listening to your answer, I forgot what it was about the community center. So I guess I'll have to come back. Thanks.
Okay. Economic development, well, I think we heard a great presentation on the kiosk.
Yeah.
I don't think we can add more than that.
I don't think so.
The Don and Henry presentation. Anything on the website, social media, telecommunications? Other than your website looks great.
Well, what website are you talking about?
The one that's ongoing.
You talking about Facebook page?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does look pretty good. I think we got, speaking of Facebook, we have over 100 friends now, so I pretty much, anybody who wants to friend us, of course, I'm gonna let them friend us. Had a few little comments, but not really much. And so that's an ongoing thing that will let us push out to a certain extent information, as we want to. In terms of the website or the new website, I guess I want to get some direction and clarity here in terms of what money we're willing to spend to finish it. I ran into, when I was in Sonoma County recently, I ran into a guy, very accomplished web designer. He's very familiar with, pretty familiar with ADA requirements for a government website. And, I had a nice conversation with him. He seems totally competent and capable of helping us, but I did want to hold off on contracting with him until I get some direction from the council here. The guy would probably charge, I think he mentioned it's going to be around $100 an hour. But he's very experienced. So my idea is that, you hire somebody who's got a lot of experience, that means it should take less time. And really, I'm thinking, given where the website is, maybe we need about between 5 and 10 hours of expert help to sort of wrap it up and integrate some elements that I think are important to make the website easy to manage, going forward. So what resources then can we legitimately apply to this project?
Let me kind of jump in here real quick. Because I know that GMAC does have a budget. We do have money. Let me contact the director of planning and building, Julia Krog, and find out what our parameters are as far as expending our GMAC money. Let me go ahead and find that out, and I can bring that at the next meeting and see if hiring a website, because we're not allowed to enter into contracts.
But you can solicit a bid.
But yeah, so
but can we ask for reimbursement if any of us spend any money?
yeah, I would say that's good. Let me go ahead and find out, ask all the pertinent questions to that and come back to the council in July, because we can't enter into a contract and I don't know what the parameters are for expending our budget money. I know that advertising the meeting, we were able to do that because that's a notification of the public. Updating our website only because not all of the MACs have websites, and I know they try to keep everything balanced. So I want to make sure that we're not.
Yeah, maybe not all of that. Redwood Valley does. I'm not sure what they pay for it or how they do it exactly.
But I'll be happy to check that and report back. Henry?
I'll just say I'm pretty skeptical of the 5 to 10 hour number. I would imagine it would be substantially higher than that. Just having done some of this, anytime you're taking on work for a client, there's going to be some time familiarizing yourself with what already exists. There's going to be a certain amount of time spent collecting requirements. There's going to be back and forth questions. That's without any coding. you're already gonna blow past the 5 hour mark. I think that it would be multiples of that. I would imagine for anybody who does this professionally, if they're gonna actually enter into a contract, they're gonna want a lot more than that in terms of time. My guess.
Well,
Obviously, I don't know the person you're talking
well,
about,
to
but
get, yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying, but to get a better idea, maybe I can convince this guy to review our website. Matter of fact, he already looked at it briefly. But review it with me concurrently at no fee. Maybe we just spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes or something. If I can get him to do that and for him to give me an estimate of, what he thinks it would take in terms of his time.
sure, yeah.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
He could submit a bid, because it's probably gonna be bid out of time and materials anyway.
It definitely would be time and materials.
Yeah. So, okay. John?
This is on a community center?
No. This is on the GMAC website.
Oh, okay, I thought you were talking about the community center too.
We kind of bounced past that. Do you have a question or comment on the community center?
Um,
Go ahead.
Give me.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, on a community center, because there's been such a dramatic change in the size, structure, whatever of the building, and looks like maybe kind of done with local businesses that may be able to help, donate some of their time or labor or whatever and putting it together. Does that require you guys to get another or a revised CDP, which would be not necessarily back in the same footprint or 10% bigger? And then where's the parking and everything else that was designed with it? Is that going to be changing? It must.
I don't want to go step into that.
Oh, I understand.
Right. So all I can say right now is that the current plans that are on the table, one for sure is qualified for the county exemption. That's the current contract that we have with Figure, because they submitted the plans to the county back in November for review.
Right.
And then we found out that the building was going to cost $9.5 million. We said, no, we're not moving forward with that. The county has told us that as long as we show progress in the project with the design that was created on the existing footprint, then we could move forward and the exemption would be in place. I cannot speak to the other three proposals. If we were to cancel the contract with the current architect and go to a new plan, if that would be considered a continuous progress in the rebuilding of the community center, or are we starting from square one? And if we start from square one, that would eliminate.
Hopefully it would be considered a minor deviation from what you originally planned, but it sounds like it's more like a major deviation.
Well, the two plans right now that are on the table, one is reducing it from a 7,000 square foot building to a 5,000 square foot building. That's one that's being proposed by the contracted architect. The plan that is being proposed by the committee of volunteers in the community is a 7,000 square foot building. And they're presenting that as a $4 million building.
Could that be built in phases?
I don't.
Which would let you at least have part of the community center and then additions as they may be able to place on top of it?
Seems like more a conversation.
That would be more of a conversation with the community center. That's something that, would probably be best if you brought it up at the board meeting. So come on the 10th.
On the 10th?
On the 10th at the community center.
I also would be interested in dirt work if there's dirt work involved that's local.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Ryan Cronin. Seems like a terrible time for community members that aren't retired. But I remember my questions. What is the status update for our census designation? Did we apply for that?
It is going through, the county has applied for it. We have not got an update on that.
Okay, but that's done. We're waiting to find out.
Correct.
And do I understand correctly that the effort of getting a census designation was specifically in an attempt to be able to source federal and state grants for the community center? Or what was the reasoning behind requiring a designation?
Two things. One, the census designation place would not take place until 2030.
Okay, so that wouldn't
So
do
yeah,
anything.
it's,
I mean, probably still won't have one by then.
and right now there is a community project grant with the federal government that's sponsored by Jared Huffman for $2 million. That's gone through committee, and hopefully we'll move to House and Senate for approval, but it's now in their hands.
Okay, and is it common for community centers to be run by private nonprofits?
Mostly, yeah.
Right.
I don't have the data to say that they're private foundations that run it.
I'm new to
government entities, there are nonprofits. Yeah.
I'm new to involvement, and it never occurred to me that community centers were not run by the county or the city that they're in, and that were run privately. So this is a surprise to me. So I'm just trying to understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, that concludes committee reports. Item number 11, treasurer's report.
Segue. The reimbursement to Henry for 4692 was submitted to the county over a month ago. Unfortunately, were you able to find a receipt?
No, they said that they were gonna try to get it to me, and then they never responded to that email again. So I can follow up with them.
The ICO?
Yeah, what happened was we submitted the invoice from the ICO, but it didn't have a receipt showing that it was actually paid to the ICO. Danielle Fitz at planning said she'd reach out to the ICO to get the confirmation of the payment. And that was the last thing I heard on that topic. And I can jiggle her again, so I'll have a better answer later, but at this point, I have not heard back. You haven't received a check, I'm assuming.
I can check and see if I have my bank has the record of the cash check. That would probably.
Well, you would have received a check in the mail. I mean.
Oh, no, certainly no. No, I haven't received a check from the county, but I wonder if in lieu of a proper receipt, if they would accept a record that the check in that amount was cash that I wrote to the ICO.
Oh. If you have a copy of the check, yes, that would probably be.
Yeah, it should be in my bank
check.
Yeah.
Cancel check would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Get it to me and I'll put it to Danielle Fitz so it goes through the proper.
Great.
Okay. It should show up on your statement though, and you can.
Yeah.
Blow it up.
That's what I'm getting.
I'm sure they cashed your check.
I would think.
So do we need to wait till you get him the check to get approval from the county and then we can take action on it, or we
took action.
It says recommended action, discuss and approve request for reimbursement.
Yeah,
It was approved before it occurred. Didn't that cover it?
No.
There was an action item.
There was authorization to conduct the advertisement, to purchase it.
Yeah.
But there was never a vote amongst the council to authorize the reimbursement, the dollar exchange. Nevertheless, that hasn't happened yet. You've been doing diligence. I recommend that the committee vote on this action.
So do we have a motion to pay Henry?
So moved.
We have a motion by
second.
Member Lewis, second by Councilmember Hess. Any further discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That sounds
I'll
unanimous.
recuse myself in that particular vote.
Why?
All right.
No,
Pretty direct financial stake in it, I'd say.
Okay, we're gonna quickly go around the table. And I emphasize quickly, anything that you have for the good of the cause, Henry?
Nope.
Dan?
Drove to Santa Rosa and back on Tuesday. On the way there were still traffic lights at Ocean Cove. On the way back there, we're not.
Isn't that great?
They are gone.
Unbelievable.
It's
Isn't that
only,
great?
it's only
Totally
been my short
demobilized.
lifetime.
They probably demobilized in about 30 seconds. It's so
Yeah.
fast.
No, while we were watching them do it, we were on their way there. They were yanking things out. So
That's great.
that's what I got.
Okay, CalTrans.
And there's a 2-lane road now?
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah, without the lights, it better be.
brilliant.
Don? Robert? Dave? Yeah, I have one item.
Of course you
Of
do.
course I did. It looks like our next council meeting is on July 3rd. Are people gonna be in town that we have a quorum?
Yes,
Yes.
Robert, you gonna be here?
Yeah.
Dave, yes? Don?
Most likely, yes. But I can't see
70,
100% sure.
70, 30, 70, 30?
More like 70.
Dan?
Yes.
Henry?
Undetermined.
Okay,
It's possible that I
Zach?
will.
We have a quorum.
I'm not gonna be here. I'm going to Wisconsin from the 2nd through the 8th.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we will, our next meeting, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to the July 3rd meeting at 6 p.m. here at the Coast Life Support Building. Motion?
Move to adjourn until.
Motion by Henry. Do we have a second? Second by Robert. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
can I make a proposal?
Thank you.
Next time.
Thanks, Zach.
Can I make a proposal?
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
What?
All those in favor signify by saying